Sir, step away from the vehicle. This is a federal verification. I'm heading into a settlement hearing. What's your legal basis for stopping me? Hands visible. Do not reach for anything.
At 6:17 a.m. on a gray Tuesday in late October, on Interstate 64 just outside Richmond, a black SUV with contractor plates slid out of the slow lane and past a line of orange barrels where a night crew had been resurfacing the shoulder. The driver, Malik Johnson, had one hand on the wheel and the other steadying a paper cup of coffee in the console. The cab smelled like fresh asphalt dust and clean leather. The radio was low, weather, traffic, the small, ordinary noises of a man moving through a normal morning. A set of unmarked SUVs appeared behind him like they'd been waiting in the mist. No sirens, no marked cruiser, just headlights closing the gap, then blue lights hidden in the grills snapping on all at once. Malik checked his speed. 68 in a 70. He signaled and eased onto the shoulder, tires crunching gravel at the edge of the work zone. Before he fully stopped, doors opened. Two men in dark tactical vests walked up fast, one on each side, hands already resting on their holsters. Their patches were subdued, letters that didn't belong to any county. Their faces were blank, practiced. The one on the driver's side leaned down and spoke through the cracked window like he owned the air inside the car. Routine check. Keys on the dash. Hands where I can see them. Malik blinked once, then placed the keys on the dash. He kept his hands at 10 and 2. Officer, is there a problem? I'm on my way to. Don't talk. Don't move. The agent's voice sharpened, and his hand tightened on the grip of his pistol as if Malik's words were a threat. License. Registration. Now. Malik moved slowly, narrating his movements because that's what you do when you've learned the wrong lesson too many times. My wallet's in my jacket pocket. Registration's in the glove box. I'm going to reach. The passenger side agent's flashlight punched through the window, a harsh white beam scanning Malik's face, then his hands, then the center console, searching for an excuse. Malik felt the heat of it on his eyes. Step out, the driver's side agent said. For what? Malik asked, still calm, still careful. The agent's smile didn't reach his eyes. For the routine check. Step out, or we'll remove you. Malik opened the door. The cold hit his lungs. He stood on the shoulder with 18-wheelers roaring past, wind tugging at his jacket. The agent guided him, not by words, but by pressure. A palm on the back of his shoulder that pushed, not directed. Malik's boots sank slightly into the damp gravel. He kept his chin level, because lowering it felt like surrender. Turn around, the agent ordered. Malik turned. The cuff came without warning, metal biting his wrists. Too tight. Immediate. The pain shot up his forearms like electricity. Sir, why am I being cuffed? Malik asked, and his voice stayed even by force. Routine, the agent said. You'll be fine if you cooperate. They walked him backward to the front of his SUV, placing him where the headlights from their unmarked vehicle flooded his body like a stage. Malik saw another agent step out of the second SUV and start filming on a phone, not officially, not with a body cam, but casually, like this was entertainment. A tractor-trailer slammed past and shook the ground. Malik's balance shifted. The agent took that tiny wobble and turned it into an accusation. Stop resisting, he snapped. I'm not resisting, Malik said, steadying his feet. The agent pushed him harder into the hood. Malik's cheek met cold metal. His coffee cup rolled on the shoulder and spilled into the gravel. The smell of burnt coffee mixed with road tar and wet dirt. Down the highway, the work zone lights blinked amber. A road crew truck sat half a mile up, idling. A worker in a reflective vest had turned toward the flashing blue lights, watching. Malik clocked it without moving his head. Visibility. Witnesses. It mattered, but never enough in the moment. The agent leaned in close, voice low now, intimate, poisonous. Where you coming from? My house, Malik said, cheek still pressed to the hood. I'm going to a meeting. What kind of meeting? A business meeting. The agent exhaled like he'd heard a joke. A business meeting. In this. His eyes flicked over Malik's SUV, the contractor tags, the clean interior. Whose car is this? It's mine. Sure, the agent said. And what do you do? Malik didn't answer fast enough. He was measuring the line between explanation and pleading. The agent punished the pause by twisting the cuff chain upward. Malik hissed through clenched teeth. The pain forced his shoulders higher, forced compliance out of his body. Answer, the agent said. I own a construction company, Malik said. highway and bridge work. The agent's eyes narrowed, and something changed, not disbelief, but interest. Like a gambler hearing the clink of chips. He nodded once to the passenger side agent. Search it. Malik lifted his head a fraction. Do you have a warrant? The driver's side agent slammed his forearm across Malik's upper back, pinning him harder. You want to play lawyer on the shoulder? You want to make this hard? I want to know why you're searching my vehicle, Malik said, and his voice had started to shake, not from fear, but from the strain of trying to stay controlled while his wrists screamed. The passenger side agent opened the driver door and climbed in like he belonged there. He started going through compartments with a practiced speed. Glove box, center console, under the seat. He pulled out Malik's folder, bid documents, plans, a printed schedule for the day. He flipped through the pages as if looking for contraband between the lines. This isn't consent, Malik said. The driver's side agent leaned close again. Then don't consent. We'll find probable cause. We always do. A sedan slowed in the right lane, passing just under the speed limit, its driver turning his head toward the stop. Malik felt the weight of being watched and realized the agents felt it too. Their movements changed. More aggressive. Faster. Like they needed to finish before the world formed an opinion. The passenger side agent held up Malik's phone from the center console, screen lighting his face. Passcode. That's my property, Malik said. Passcode, the agent repeated, as if saying it louder made it lawful. I'm not giving you that. The driver's side agent straightened and spoke for the first time like this was official. You're being detained for obstruction. Malik turned his head just enough to look. Obstruction of what? You haven't told me anything. The agent's jaw tightened. He didn't like being forced into words. Words create records. He grabbed Malik by the elbow and yanked him off the hood. Malik stumbled, boots sliding in gravel. The agent used the stumble like permission. He swept Malik's feet out and drove him down. Malik hit the shoulder hard, ribs first, breath leaving his body in a violent cough. His face scraped gravel. The world became road noise and pain. Stop resisting, someone shouted. Too loud, too performative. I'm not, Malik started, but the cuff chain jerked up again and cut his words off. The passenger side agent stepped over Malik's legs and pressed a knee into his lower back. Malik's chest flattened toward the asphalt. The pressure stole air. Malik's mind reached for calm, reached for method. Breathe slow, don't panic, don't give them what they want. But his body was trapped under authority and physics. Up the highway, the road crew truck door opened. A worker got out. Malik heard a distant voice, someone yelling, not words yet, just protest forming. The driver's side agent noticed too. He looked back toward the crew, then down at Malik like Malik was the source of the inconvenience. You think they're going to help you? He said quietly. You think anyone's going to make a stop? Malik tried to lift his head. He caught a glimpse of his own SUV's dash, where his keys lay. And beside them, something else, a small black rectangle stuck near the windshield, barely noticeable. A dash camera. Malik had installed it months ago after a friend's advice. He hadn't even thought of it this morning. The agent followed Malik's eyes. His gaze landed on the camera. A beat. Then another beat where you could almost hear the calculation. The agent didn't rip it down. Not yet. He stepped away, spoke to his partner, too low for Malik to catch over traffic. Then he turned back to Malik and made his voice loud again, for the passing cars and any phones aimed their way. Mail is non-compliant, he announced. We have reason to believe the vehicle may be involved in interstate trafficking. Trafficking. The word hung in the cold air like a loaded gun. Malik's breath caught, not because the accusation was believable, but because he understood what it allowed them to do next. The passenger side agent kept rummaging. He opened the rear hatch and pulled out a hard case. Malik's. Inside were sample cores of asphalt and aggregate from a job site, labeled and bagged. The agent held one up like it was a trophy, then frowned like he didn't know how to turn gravel into a crime. He set it down and went deeper, into the spare tire well. Malik watched from the ground, helpless, as the agent's hands moved with increasing certainty, like he'd already decided what he would find. Then the agent's posture changed. He stopped. He looked at something in his hand, then looked over at the driver's side agent. Got it, he called out. Malik's stomach tightened as if his body knew before his mind did. The agent walked toward Malik holding a small plastic bag. White powder inside. Not much, but enough for an arrest. Enough for a headline. Enough to make the stop justified in a report. I don't know what that is, Malik said instantly, voice raw. That's not mine. The driver's side agent crouched beside Malik, eyes close, voice private again. It is now. Malik stared at him, and for the first time the control in Malik's face cracked. Not fear, not tears, disbelief hardening into something dangerous. You're planting that, Malik said, and his voice rose despite himself. You're planting that on me. The agent stood, and his boot pressed into the gravel beside Malik's shoulder like punctuation. He looked toward the road crew worker who was now closer, standing near the edge of the work zone with his phone raised. Filming. The driver's side agent lifted his own voice again. Narcotics recovered. Subject under arrest. 2 more unmarked vehicles arrived, sliding onto the shoulder with the casual confidence of reinforcements. More agents. More vests. More hands. The situation widened from a stop to a scene, from one man to a controlled perimeter. They hauled Malik up. His wrists burned. His ribs screamed with every breath. His face was damp with cold sweat and gravel dust. Malik tried to keep his feet under him, because falling again meant more resisting, more justification. As they shoved him toward the back of an unmarked SUV, Malik saw the road crew worker clearly now. Mid-40s, reflective vest, hard hat, phone held steady. Another worker stood behind him, eyes wide, mouth slightly open like he couldn't decide whether to step in. The driver's side agent walked toward them with a smile that wasn't a smile. This is a federal operation, he said, voice calm, threatening in its calm. You can put the phone away. The worker didn't. His hand stayed up, phone aimed. He didn't do nothing, the worker said. Y'all slammed him down for asking questions. The agent's smile sharpened. You want to obstruct? You want to get jammed up at your job site today? The worker swallowed. Malik watched his throat move. Then the worker stepped back half a pace, but the phone stayed up. Malik was pushed into the SUV. The door shut, sealing him into a cage of tinted glass. The interior smelled like cheap disinfectant. A metal screen separated the front seats. Malik's breath fogged the window as he tried to pull air into bruised ribs. Through the tint, he saw the agents move around his SUV like they were stripping it for parts. One of them reached up and peeled the dashcam off the windshield. He held it up, inspected it, then dropped it into his pocket. A small, clean act of theft disguised as procedure. The unmarked SUV pulled away from the shoulder and merged back into traffic as if nothing had happened. The highway kept flowing. The barrels kept guiding cars past the work zone. The morning kept pretending it was normal. In the holding room at the federal building downtown, Malik sat on a bench with his hands still cuffed in front of him. The fluorescent light made his skin look gray. His left wrist was swollen, a purple line blooming where the cuff edge had cut in. When he shifted, pain stabbed through his ribs and into his back. An agent he hadn't seen before entered with a clipboard and a bored expression. You know why you're here? He asked, like Malik was a child. No, Malik said. You stopped me and searched my car without a warrant. You assaulted me. You planted narcotics. The agent didn't react to the word planted. He flipped a page, uninterested in truth. We recovered suspected cocaine from your vehicle. You were uncooperative. You were evasive. I asked why I was being detained, Malik said, and he could hear his own voice start to shake again, anger pressing against the walls of his control. That's not a crime. The agent leaned in just slightly. With the charges you're facing, you should stop talking. I want a lawyer, Malik said. The agent shrugged like he'd expected that. He stood, then paused at the door. You're gonna find out, he said softly, how expensive a traffic stop can get. Malik stared at the closed door after the agent left. In the quiet, his mind finally reached for what had been tugging at him since the shoulder, the dash cam. The agent took it. That meant the footage existed. But Malik had set it up with a cloud upload feature. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't a secret. It just uploaded automatically when it detected a collision or sudden movement. Like being slammed onto gravel. He didn't know for sure if it had worked. In that holding room, with the hum of fluorescent lights and the ache in his ribs, hope felt like a liability. But the possibility sat in his chest beside the pain, a small hard thing that wouldn't go away. Outside that building, Malik's phone, confiscated, sitting somewhere in an evidence locker, kept buzzing with missed calls. His assistant, Kendra, had been waiting for him at the morning meeting with the State Transportation Board. Malik was supposed to present the final bid numbers for a highway expansion contract worth tens of millions. Malik didn't show. His chair stayed empty. People looked at the clock, then at each other. When Malik missed the second call in time, Kendra's stomach tightened. She called Malik's wife, then Malik's project manager, then his attorney, because Malik had told her years ago, "If I ever disappear in the middle of a workday, don't waste time assuming it's an accident." By noon, Malik's company had a question nobody wanted to say out loud. Where is he? At 3:42 p.m., Malik's lawyer, Daniel Hart, sat across from a federal supervisor in a glass-walled office and listened to a sanitized version of the morning. Interdiction operation, the supervisor said. Routine. Mr. Johnson matched a profile. He was detained. Contraband located. Daniel kept his face flat. He'd spent a career learning how to keep disgust from becoming a strategy. What profile? Daniel asked. The supervisor's smile was practiced. Indicators. Travel pattern. Vehicle type. Nervous behavior. Daniel leaned forward. He's a local contractor driving to a publicly scheduled meeting. He wasn't nervous. He was handcuffed on a shoulder in a construction zone. That's the only reason anyone would look nervous. The supervisor's eyes flicked briefly to the door, then back. We'll let the process play out, he said. Then produce the body cam footage, Daniel said. The supervisor's smile tightened. We're looking into it. That night, Malik was released on bond, charges pending. He walked out of the facility into the cold air with bruises blooming under his clothes and a pain that made each breath shallow. Daniel met him at the curb. Malik's wife stood behind Daniel. Her face controlled, but her eyes, red from hours of fear, turned to fury. She touched Malik's wrist gently. Malik flinched. The skin was raw. We're going to the hospital, she said. At the ER, a nurse lifted Malik's shirt and inhaled sharply. A purple bruise spread across his ribs like spilled ink. The doctor ordered x-rays. No fracture, but deep contusions. Soft tissue damage. Wrist swelling. Abrasions on his cheek. On the hospital bed, Malik stared up at the ceiling tiles and listened to his wife speak to Daniel in a low, urgent voice near the door. They said trafficking, she whispered. He's never. I know, Daniel said. We're not arguing innocence. We're proving misconduct. Malik closed his eyes. In the dark behind his lids, he saw the bag of white powder in the agent's hand. He heard the words, "It is now." At 2:11 a.m., Kendra called Daniel. Her voice was tight, controlled, carrying adrenaline. I found something, she said. Daniel sat up in bed, instantly awake. What? The dashcam account, Kendra said. Malik gave me admin access months ago for insurance. It uploaded a clip today. Not all of it, but enough. Daniel didn't speak. He didn't want to interrupt the first real oxygen they'd had all day. It captured audio, Kendra continued. It captured the moment they slammed him down. It captured one of them saying, "We'll find probable cause." We always do. And, Daniel, there's a frame where you can see one of them reach into the back area before they found the drugs. The timestamps don't line up with their report. Daniel closed his eyes once, then opened them. Send it, he said. Kendra hesitated. It's huge, but I can get you the link. Now, Daniel said, and his voice sharpened. Before they realize it exists. Within minutes, the video arrived. Grainy, wide angle, damp windshield, headlights flaring. But clear enough to show Malik's hands on the hood. Clear enough to hear Malik calmly narrating his movements. Clear enough to hear the agent's voice, low and certain. We always do. Daniel watched it twice without blinking. On the third viewing, he saw the detail that turned a bad stop into an open wound for the entire institution. The agent's glance toward the dashcam. The beat of calculation. The deliberate choice to take it after the fact. Containment, not safety. By morning, Daniel filed an emergency preservation notice demanding all video, audio, dispatch logs, and evidence chain of custody records. He sent it to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the agency's Internal Affairs Unit, and the Office of Inspector General. He didn't ask politely. He wrote like someone who knew they would try to bury it. Within hours, a federal spokesperson released a statement. We are aware of allegations regarding an interdiction stop. The matter is under review. Under review was the phrase institutions used when they needed time to organize a story. The agents went back to work. Malik went back to his bed, bruised and sleepless. His company's board demanded explanations. His competitors whispered. People who had never said his name before said it now, like it was a warning. Malik Johnson got caught with drugs. Malik's wife sat at their kitchen table with her laptop open, watching the rumors spread faster than truth ever could. Malik stood behind her, holding his side, staring at his own life being rewritten by strangers. "They're doing it," Malik said quietly. "They're making me the story, not what they did." Daniel moved fast. He met with the road crew worker, the man in the reflective vest, at a diner off the highway. The worker's name was Ray Dempsey. Ray's hands shook slightly when he lifted his coffee. Not because he was fragile, but because he was afraid of what he'd filmed. "They told me they'd jam me up," Ray said. "Said this was federal. Like that meant I didn't get to have eyes." Daniel nodded. "Do you still have the video?" Ray swallowed. "Yeah. Back it up," Daniel said. "3 places. And don't tell anyone you have it." Ray stared at him. "They can do that," Ray said, "meaning they can ruin me." "I know," Daniel said. "That's why we move before they do." 2 days later, the agency produced a partial body cam file. Only one angle, only a few minutes, with the most violent moment missing. They claimed technical malfunction. Daniel didn't argue. He compared. The body cam timestamps didn't match dispatch logs. The radio traffic referenced subject prone before the body cam file began. The agent's written report described Malik lunging and attempting to flee, but the dashcam showed Malik's feet planted, hands visible, voice calm. The lie wasn't subtle. It was institutional muscle memory. Daniel filed in federal court, not just to defend Malik against the criminal charge, but to attack the stop itself. Civil rights violations, unlawful search, excessive force, fabrication of evidence, retaliation. The filing forced a different kind of attention, the kind that creates subpoenas, the kind that turns internal whispers into sworn testimony. That's when the delayed truth landed like a hammer for everyone who'd been comfortable calling Malik just a driver. Malik wasn't merely a contractor. He owned Johnson Infrastructure Group, one of the largest minority-owned highway construction firms in the region. His crews paved the roads lawmakers drove to campaign events. His company held state contracts and federal subcontracts. His name was on plaques at ribbon cuttings where politicians smiled for cameras. And the morning he was stopped, Malik wasn't heading to a casual meeting. He was going to submit a final bid for a highway expansion project that would have changed his company for the next decade. That fact didn't make him more human. It made the institution's choice impossible to dismiss as a simple mistake. They had put a man in cuffs on the shoulder of a road his own crews maintained, and they had done it with the casual cruelty of people who believed there would be no cost. The cost began arriving anyway. A clerk in the evidence unit, young, nervous, contacted Daniel through an anonymous email. One sentence, they logged the dashcam as destroyed. Destroyed. The word was a confession disguised as a procedure. Daniel forwarded the message to the Inspector General. He demanded an immediate hold on evidence. He demanded a forensic audit of the evidence room. 2 weeks later, the white powder supposedly recovered from Malik's SUV came back from the lab. Not cocaine. The test showed a mixture, common cutting agents, but no illegal narcotic consistent with the charge. The amount was small enough that any competent agent would have waited for confirmation before booking someone under a trafficking narrative. Unless the point wasn't drugs. Unless the point was the stop itself. Control, humiliation, leverage. The U.S. Attorney's Office quietly moved to dismiss the criminal charge in the interest of justice. In the interest of justice was another phrase institutions used when they didn't want to say, "We got caught." But dismissal didn't heal Malik's bruises. It didn't rewind the rumors. It didn't restore the contract meeting he missed. It didn't erase the fact that federal agents had put a knee into his back and told him no one would make them stop. So Daniel pushed into discovery like a blade. He obtained training records. The agents were part of an interdiction task force that had been operating near major highway corridors, stopping vehicles under a loose, routine check justification. They wrote reports filled with the same phrases: nervous behavior, inconsistent travel plans, odor of narcotics. Copy-paste probable cause. Daniel obtained complaint histories. One of the agents had multiple prior excessive force allegations that had been not sustained. Another had been disciplined for improper searches, then transferred, not removed. Then came the testimony that made the case impossible to contain. A senior agent, under oath, admitted that the task force had pressure to produce seizures. Not arrests. Seizures. Cash. Property. Vehicles. Numbers that made the operation look successful on paper. Are you saying, Daniel asked, voice even, that your team was evaluated based on what it took from citizens? The agent hesitated. The court reporter's keys clicked in the silence. Yes, the senior agent said. The institution tried to shut it down. Motions, protective orders, requests to seal records. But the dam had already cracked, and water doesn't ask permission once it starts moving. Ray Dempsey's video surfaced next, clearer than the dash cam, closer, with Malik's body visible as he hit the ground. The audio captured Malik's voice breaking on the gravel. It captured the moment the agent threatened Ray for filming. It captured the casual way power tried to erase itself in real time. The clip didn't go viral immediately. It moved differently. It moved through attorneys and investigators and journalists who understood what it meant when a federal agent used the word routine like a weapon. An inspector general investigation opened formally. Agents were placed on administrative leave. Their service weapons were collected. Access badges deactivated. The task force's stop logs were subpoenaed, then compared against dispatch records, then compared against property seizure inventories. Patterns emerged. Stops clustered at the edge of work zones, where drivers had fewer safe options to pull over and fewer witnesses wanted to stop. Stops of rental cars and contractor vehicles. Stops late at night and early in the morning. Stops where cameras were malfunctioning. The agency announced policy review and additional training. But the investigators weren't looking at policy anymore. They were looking at intent. The turning point came from inside. A technician responsible for uploading bodycam data testified that the missing violent segment from Malik's stop hadn't malfunctioned. It had been manually deleted at a workstation after the shift by a user account linked to one of the agents. Not a glitch. A choice. That's when the matter shifted from civil exposure to criminal liability. Evidence tampering. False statements. Deprivation of rights under color of law. The agents who had treated Malik like he was disposable were now sitting in interview rooms with their own hands sweating on the table, learning what it felt like to answer questions they couldn't control. Malik watched the process from the outside, and it didn't feel like victory. It felt like surgery without anesthesia. Every new document proved him right, but each one also proved how easily it could have ended differently if the dashcam upload hadn't happened. If Ray hadn't held his phone steady, if Daniel had believed the under-review language and waited. In the civil case, the government fought it first. They argued qualified immunity. They argued reasonable suspicion. They argued that Malik's behavior escalated the encounter. Daniel played the audio in court. Malik's calm voice. Malik's questions. The agent's certainty, we always do. The judge didn't raise his voice when he spoke. He didn't have to. He ordered sanctions for spoliation, the destruction of evidence. He allowed an adverse inference instruction. The jury could presume the destroyed footage would have been unfavorable to the agents. That instruction was a guillotine. It told the institution, you don't get to erase what you did and then ask to be trusted. Settlement talks began quietly after that. Not because the institution grew a conscience, but because it ran the numbers and saw the verdict risk. Civil damages, punitive damages, federal scrutiny, congressional oversight. A public trial where every lie would be spoken out loud. Malik didn't want quiet money. He wanted a record that couldn't be edited. He insisted on terms, policy changes, independent monitoring, disciplinary transparency, and a public acknowledgement that his stop was unlawful. His board worried. His advisors warned him not to push. Malik listened, then shook his head. They took the morning from me like it was nothing, he said. They took my name. They don't get to buy silence and call it justice. The agreement, when it came, landed heavy. $18.4 million. Not as a gift, as a price. The settlement included mandated reforms, dashcam and bodycam retention requirements, automatic external auditing of deletions, revised interdiction protocols restricting routine checks, and the dissolution of the specific task force unit that had operated with seizure quotas disguised as enforcement. Then came the irreversible consequences that money can't purchase but accountability demands. One agent pleaded guilty to evidence tampering and false statements. He lost his badge, his pension, his career, and then his freedom, prison time measured in years, not headlines. The other agent went to trial. The dashcam audio played for the jury. Ray's video played next. The technician's testimony sealed it. Conviction. Sentencing. The judge spoke about power like it was a loaded weapon entrusted to unworthy hands. The supervisor who had smiled across from Daniel and said, "We'll let the process play out," was demoted and reassigned. Not enough for some. For Malik, it was proof that even the polished faces have fingerprints. When Malik finally drove that same stretch of I-64 again months later, the work zone was gone. Fresh asphalt ran smooth and dark under his tires. The shoulder where he'd hit the gravel looked ordinary, like it had never held a man face down under federal knees. He pulled onto a nearby exit and parked at a gas station, sitting in his SUV with both hands resting on the steering wheel even though no one was there to demand it. His wrists had healed, but the memory had its own grip. His wife sat beside him, quiet. She didn't ask if he was okay. She knew the answer would be complicated. Outside, a road crew truck passed, orange lights blinking. Malik watched it go. "They counted on nobody caring," he said finally. His wife looked at him. "And they were wrong," she replied. Malik didn't smile. His face stayed serious, carved by what the institution tried to do and what it failed to finish. He started the engine and merged back onto the highway, not triumphant, not broken, just present, moving forward on a road that had tried to turn him into a statistic and instead became a record of consequence. Because the story wasn't that a powerful man got compensated. The story was that power met evidence, and evidence didn't blink. If you believe accountability matters more than authority, subscribe.